Hello to my Griffin artists. Do you recognize this beautiful tree? Do you know where this tree is located? This tree is located on the Mater Dei campus. And if you can tell me where in the comments below, I would love to see if you know. But this is such a beautiful tree, and we're so lucky to have it on the Mater Dei campus. And every fall, I admire this tree whenever I see it. And if you look for this tree now, it's going to look very different than this picture. I took this picture right when the leaves started to change. But if you can spot this tree on the campus, you'll notice that many, many more of these leaves are going to look like this. This was when the tree first started to turn. And in the fall, when the leaves start to change color, it is absolutely magnificent. And these trees are sort of artists of their own, aren't they? They're showing us all their beautiful colors. So look around this week at lots of different trees and admire their beautiful, beautiful colors. Today's art video, we are going to draw our very own autumn trees. And I'm going to take you step by step through this. You're going to need your paints, some water, the paintbrush that's included with your set, or you could use the larger one that you were able to take home, and a Sharpie or a black crayon. If you don't have a Sharpie or a black crayon, you can use a Sharpie of a different color or a crayon of a different color. But as you see here, the black really works best. So if you have it, that is great. These trees here are really quite simple, and I'm going to show you how to make them. If you notice from this picture, the trees that are closest to us are large. And as you go back, I made smaller trees because those are trees that are further away. I've talked about this before, but when objects are close to you, they're big. And as they move farther and farther and farther away, they get smaller. So when you're drawing a picture that's a landscape like this, trees or things or houses or whatever it is that you're drawing, the ones that are closer to you are larger. If you're trying to show trees in the background or further away, they will be smaller. So you draw them smaller, okay? And a lot of times I use the example of being on an airplane. So when you're on an airplane, before you take off and you look out your window, the people on the runway or items on the runway are big. But as you start to fly and go up into the air and get further and further away from them, they get smaller and smaller and smaller, like a house. If you were standing right in front of a house, it would be very big, but when you get further and further away from it, they look like little tiny playhouses. I'm going to show you first how to draw one of these trees, and I'm going to do it on a separate piece of paper. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm just going to show you. So you're going to have a nice piece of thick watercolor paper that I gave you at school today. We're going to put that aside. Just take out a scrap piece of paper, or you can even just watch, because I'm just going to show you first how we're going to draw our trees before we do them on our nice paper. Okay, so remember, grab a piece of scrap paper, not your nice thick one, because that's where we're going to put our real picture. This is just practice. If you don't have any scrap paper around, just watch. But if you think you have scrap paper, pause the video and go and get it and come back. I'm going to take our Sharpie, pencil, or crayon, and to draw the tree, very, very, very simple, is you're going to start with a line that goes up. Trees grow upwards. And then you're going to make that a little bit thicker. And it can even be a little bit thicker towards the bottom. And we're going to bring that all the way up. Then these trees that we're going to draw have branches. We're going to do a line out in one direction, and we're going to do a line out in another direction. And we're going to do another line. These are our branches. And you don't have to do your branches exactly like I'm doing. I'm just sort of showing you that the trees are just a series of lines that are connected. Long line here, here, here. You can even do another one here or here. And that starts to look like a tree. So these very simple trees are actually just lines that are connected and branching out. But all together, they look pretty neat. Okay, so that was our little example. Our thick line up, a branch to one side, a branch to the other side. You could even do your branch further down. And then we have our lines off of our branches. So let's pull this aside now that we did a practice to our real nice thick watercolor paper. And the reason why this is nice and thick is because you're going to be painting on it. If you used a little piece of paper like this and painted on it, it's going to make the paper soggy and it might rip. This paper isn't made for painting with watercolors necessarily. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is draw our ground. Now, for my artists at home, I'd love for you to do your lines first with a pencil. That way, if you mess up, you can erase because you're doing this on the nice paper. If you use a Sharpie or a pen or a crayon right off the bat instead of doing it first in pencil and you make a mistake and you're not happy with it, then you don't have another piece of this nice paper. So do it in pencil first, okay? I'm going to do it in crayon first, dark crayon. I'm not doing it in pencil first. The reason why I'm doing it in the dark crayon is so that you can see it on the video because sometimes it's hard to see pencil on these videos. So I'm saying do as I say and not as I do in this one. So here we're gonna have, oh, there's a mark on this. No, it's okay. We're going to draw our ground, and really what we're looking out on is almost like an orchard or a place like that that has sort of rolling hills. So we're gonna start off on our paper, and I just went a little bit up and I drew a line kind of coming down like this. And then I'm going to come up to about here and I'm going to draw another line. And you see what is happening already? This is a hill and this is a hill. And then we're going to do one more that goes across both of them at the top. So there I have my view. That's my grass. And I can see that there are the rolling hills all the way into the distance. Now we're going to create our trees. Remember our practice? So for the trees I'm going to do first, I'm going to do the largest trees, and those are going to be the ones that are closest to me, the person that's viewing the picture. So I'm going to start over here and I'm going to do a nice line up. I think that's a pretty good size. That's going to be my big tree. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to really press hard with my black crayon. If you have a Sharpie, you don't need to press hard to make it very dark black, but if you have a crayon, you sort of have to press hard. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to do a branch out to one side, and I'm going to do another branch out to the other side. I'll do a branch off of that, a branch off of this, a branch here. You can really do it however you want. And you just add your branches how you like. And that sort of looks very spooky and Halloween-y. And that is the way the tree is going to look in the winter. All the leaves are going to come off. But this is not a winter picture. We'll do winter pictures in the winter. This is a fall picture. So we're going to add our colorful leaves when we're done. So that's gonna be my biggest tree. That tree is the closest to me. And I'm bringing that trunk down because that tree is not sitting right on top of that hill. It's actually closer in, okay? So now I'm gonna go over here to this other side and I'm going to do another tree. It's not going to be as big as the first tree that I did, but it's probably going to be my second largest tree. So this is going to be my biggest tree, and this is going to be another kind of big tree, but not as big as this one. So I'd say this is going to be a medium. Big, medium, and then in the background we're going to do small. So here I'm going to do my branch out one side, branch out on the other side. Maybe I'll do a little branch coming down like that. Maybe I'll do a branch coming down like this. Branch here. And I think I might add okay. I've got my two larger trees. And now I'm going to start to do some smaller trees in the distance. So I think I'm going to do one over here. Sort of looks like a Y. You start off sort of like with a Y, and then you do your branches off however you want. Now I'm going to do the trees that are far into the distance, way back here, and I'm going to make them smaller. And I'm doing exactly the same thing that I did here, just very small. And a little bit further back, there's going to be another one. And maybe I'll do one way back here. So you can see by drawing the smaller trees, I'm showing that those are further away. Do you see how that works? That's art. The ones that are closer are bigger. So after what I just drew, I feel like I'm right here, I'm standing here and I'm looking out, and this tree is close to me, and this one's close to me, and then this one's a little bit further away, and then this one's a little bit further away, and maybe that one's the furthest. Maybe that one is, I can't tell, but they're the small ones. If you are ready now and happy with your trees, you can go and we can start to paint them. Now, I want to say something. With the trees, you can go ahead and do those with the Sharpie or crayon. You don't have to do thick lines with your pencil. You can just kind of draw where you want it thinly, and then you can go over it with your Sharpie or your crayon. Okay, so now we have our orchard here. And now we're going, this is the fun part, we're gonna go in and we're going to paint. So I'm gonna take my beautiful paint set here and my water. Oh, and remember you need some sort of towel to dry if your paints are too wet. So if you feel like it's too wet there, you could dab the side. And let's go back to our beautiful picture of our tree that's on the Modern Day campus. What colors do you see? I see yellows and I see oranges. And now this tree is probably darker oranges, maybe some browns, some reds. Have you seen a tree that has bright, beautiful yellow leaves on it? And it looks so beautiful, especially with the dark bark of the tree. Oh, I love those. So you're gonna think first about the colors that you see in autumn. And for me, that's a lot of yellows, oranges, reds, and maybe a little bit of browns. So I'm gonna start, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start with my orange. And again, if I want a lighter orange, I'm gonna use more water on my brush. If I want a brighter orange or a darker orange, I'm gonna use less. And then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna go in a circle. I'm going to paint a circle right over, on top of my black crayon or my black Sharpie. And this is why we use Sharpie or crayon, because they resist, the Sharpie is dark and the water won't make the Sharpie bleed. And for crayons, they're wax, like I talked about last week, and they resist the water. So we just do a circle on top of those branches till you cover all the branches. Now I'm going to choose perhaps red now. And I think I'll do red circles on these trees that are further away. I'm gonna do both of these red. Look at that. Now this beautiful bright yellow. I think I'm going to come over and paint my big tree, and I'm gonna go in and I'm just going to paint a big yellow circle around my branches. So here we didn't individually go in and draw every, or paint, excuse me, every little leaf. What we're doing instead is we're doing these circles, which makes a really, really neat looking picture. Then I'm gonna go in with my orange, and I'm gonna go to my yellow tree, and I'm gonna do a ring of orange. And I'm going to also do a ring of red. Around my tree. Okay. Now I'm going to go to this little tiny one here, and I think I'm going to do that one yellow. I like just the solid, so you can do just solid, just one color, or you can do many. And I think on this one over here, I'm going to kind of do what I did on the other big one, and I'm going to do an orange circle till I get all the way around and it's covering all my branches. Now you could leave it like that, which I think looks pretty great. Or you can go in, which I think I'm gonna do with the yellow or any other color, and I'm gonna do a yellow ring around it. And this is also reminding me of how we talked about colors and color theory and how you make certain colors. Like if you mixed red and yellow, you get orange. So I'm pretty happy with the way these trees look. And I have to decide, do I put more rings around this one? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll put a red ring around this one. I like that. So now I feel like I'm done with my trees, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint my grass. Now my grass isn't going to be bright green. That's sort of more of summertime. But I think what I'm going to use for my grass are the browns and this dark green. You can choose whichever colors you like. But what I want to show you is things that are farther away are going to appear darker. And things that are lighter are going to appear closer. And we talked about that last week when we painted our pumpkins, didn't we, right? We talked about where the light hits the pumpkin, that would be a lighter color, and further away, it would be darker colors. So I'm gonna go in and I'm going to do this darker green all over my page, all over my sort of hills here, until I fill it up. And since over here is further away, I think I'm gonna go in with a little bit of a darker color and fill in darker. It's further away, so it's a bit darker. I'm gonna bring a little bit of brown into here too. And maybe I'll get some darker brown. Really fill that in. That's further away. Okay, I'll add a little bit of brown here, but mostly I'm having it go darker as it goes further away. And now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do my sky. Have you noticed that it's getting darker earlier now? I have definitely noticed that. And you think, wow, during the summertime, I can be outside till practically 8 o'clock at night and it's still light out. But now it's getting darker much earlier. So now I'm gonna go in and paint my background. And I'm just gonna be careful not to let my blue bleed into my trees, because I wanna keep those trees, those vibrant, beautiful fall colors. So I have to be kind of careful as I work my way around the trees. Now I wanna show you something kind of fun, and this is what I really like about watercolors is they can be very forgiving. And it's just kind of neat because they change with the more water that you add. But if you wanted to add clouds, all you would have to do is you paint a little bit of blue and then you go in and you take either a washcloth or probably a paper towel is what your parents would prefer. And you go in and you just dab where you painted that blue and it looks like a cloud. So you can kind of go through and just dab on it and make it look like there's some clouds. And then you just go through and carefully paint around your trees. And you can add a little bit of water if sometimes you go and you get blue and then it's a darker blue than you wanted. You just add a little bit of more water to it. But you just carefully go around those trees and fill your whole background up. And then at the end, once you've filled your whole background up, you're going to have a picture that looks like this. On this picture, I did mostly light browns and darker browns, and you can see I went a little bit darker in the back. But this is what your painting will look like when it dries. Put your name on the back after it dries, and you can bring it in, and I would love to see it. Okay? So I'm going to stop the video and I'm going to continue to paint, and hopefully you'll be continuing to paint too. And I can't wait to see what you create.